Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Comics Podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Nabeel Gaber.
I'm the other host, Josh Kang.
And this is the podcast where we talk about Ultimate Marvel, an imprint of Marvel Comics that began in the early 2000s, specifically exactly the year 2000 with Ultimate Spider-Man, and continued on with Ultimate Fantastic Four, Ultimate X-Men, The Ultimates, and the whole point was this imprint was an experiment to modernize and reimagine Marvel and its characters and the stories for the 21st century. Josh and I, every episode, have been reading through a handful of issues, talking about the comics, what we think of the comics, how they've held up over time, how they haven't held up in some ways, their influence on pop culture and movies and TV, and also just the influence that they have on the Marvel Universe. So this week, we're back to Ultimate Spider-Man. We're reading issues 47 through 53. Josh, what do you think of these issues?
I like these issues. They're fun. I like this arc and this issue, but as an arc, it's a little smushed because it feels like two arcs just smushed into one.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's like two arcs back to back over a longer stretch. So it does feel like a lot at once. And I think it does a lot of good stuff, but the arc does feel, at the end of the day, pretty cluttered. It's fun and still very well written, and the art still looks beautiful. So
I did like the two arcs smushed into this one arc. They're both fine arcs on their own, I feel.
yeah, they're connected pretty well together. It's the return of the Kingpin, and
Yeah.
that leads to a few other things, like we get the introduction of Black Cat, another major character in the Spider-Man mythos.
We get also the stronger build-up of MJ and Peter's relationship, too.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of personal stuff going on here with Peter and MJ for sure in the latter half of these issues. And in the beginning, it does deal a lot more with Peter's sense of morality, of right and wrong, of feelings of injustice with someone like the Kingpin walking around. So it's a lot of really good stuff, and we get in focus on supporting players like J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Urich and of course MJ. So
Yep.
it's really well done. Why don't we just get into it, Josh? We got a lot of ground to cover.
The Kingpin introduction, well, we don't get the Kingpin, we don't see the Kingpin ASAP. It happens relatively fast. We see the Kingpin's minions intimidate another criminal, saying, "You owe the Kingpin money." And the guy goes, "But the Kingpin's out of the country." And they go, "You still owe him money."
Yeah, because the Kingpin left very early on in this series. It was the second story arc, so it was after issue 12 that he left the country. And so at the beginning of issue 47, we see the return of the enforcers, who are quite literally the Kingpin's enforcers,
Yeah.
shaking down a guy for the Kingpin's money.
Yeah.
So you're like, what do you mean? We as the readers and the characters are like, what do you mean? It's really fun seeing the enforcers back together.
Yeah.
I think they're really goofy characters, but they're just a little symbol of the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko comics that are a lot of fun. I think their personalities bounce off each other really well. I think they're intimidating the guy, and I think they say something like "Tale as old as time." And there's a line where Ox just sings "Beauty and the
The
Beast,"
and then everyone just stares at him and goes, "Oh, I thought that was our move."
I'm like, that would totally be me if I was in a
Yeah.
gang. That would totally be what I did, and everyone would just look at me like, what are you doing?
I'm be honest, that might be me too, except I don't get a lot of references, or I get the wrong one completely, so I might just say the wrong move.
Oh, I mean, fair enough. There's always that person who the references just fly over their heads.
Yeah.
I am the one constantly making the references. So,
If I was a criminal, I was getting shaken down by a bunch of gangsters, and they start singing Disney songs. I don't know if I'll be confused, or I just will find this thing completely surreal and dumb, or if I'm gonna go, what?
yeah, I don't know if I would feel less intimidated or feel extremely threatened in that moment.
Yeah.
Disney might not be the same for me again after that.
Who knows? Maybe it is Disney. They're like, used our copyright for the last time, bitch.
I would not be surprised at this rate with all the evil things. Anyways, but we get to Spider-Man cutting in to rescue this gambler who's being shaken down by the enforcers. And there's this big funds fight scene.
The enforcers are like, "You called in Spider-Man, you called in help," and the guy goes, "No, I didn't."
I don't know why any of them would think that criminals would contact Spider-Man or he would contact criminals.
Some of the criminals think Spider-Man is a criminal.
Yeah, right? I feel like if you are the Kingpin or his crew, you'd know at this point that he's not in league with any of the criminals.
Yeah.
But it's a very fun fight scene. The Enforcers also, it's a running gag in this arc that they just keep tripping over each other. I think at the beginning in this initial fight, Montana accidentally hits Fancy Dan with his whip. But Spider-Man's like, what are you guys doing here? What's going on? But he beats them up, webs them up for the cops. Meanwhile, we cut to the Kingpin, who is very silent, but silently fuming. His lawyer, Mr. Dini, is just reading the Enforcers the Riot Act going on. You didn't come back with the money that you wanted to get from this guy. That's $1.3 million. It's a lot. And you guys made a scene, and Kingpin himself angrily smashes the desk, and he's like firing bullets in broad daylight, like in the middle of the day, like making noise. And so he's not happy.
Yeah.
And so they're like, you better shape up or there will be consequences.
We will find out like relatively soon that Kingpin he's clear, but he's in legally gray waters because he just got cleared, so he kind of can't draw attention to himself just after getting cleared.
Yeah, exactly. And it took a lot. It's revealed he had to spend $3 million in order to just get back into the country and clear his name legally, at least, of murder charges. And he's upset. He's like $3 million, but his lawyer makes a good point. Is like, hey, that's actually a good deal. Like, you don't have any murder charges on you. If that's all you had to do, that's pretty good. Like, you're in a pretty nice spot.
Well, I don't think his like absurdly rich is just rich, because we're at the point where like we have absurdly rich where 3 million is nothing. I think he's still like a 2000s millionaire billionaire where 3 million is like, ooh, that's like you feel that's like a wallet. Go on.
Yeah. Before greater inflation. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
It's a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll make it back in his criminal enterprise, though.
Yeah.
As long as he's not caught.
I think at this point, Marvel can't, like, the company Marvel cannot lose 3 million. Like, at this point, like, Marvel's a big company.
In the early 2000s at that point?
Yeah.
In like 2004, yeah, they could not afford that.
Yeah. And the Kingpin goes, I want to kill Peter Parker. And no, he wants to kill Spider-Man, because the lawyer then goes, well, we need to go after every white teenager in New York or the Tri-State area. That's impossible.
He's like, there's too many teenage white boys in New York, man. Just because you saw his face doesn't mean you know his name or any other details about him other than he's a skinny teenage white boy. You're not narrowing it down, bub.
You remember that scene back in the day where in Justice League, the TV show, where like Lex Luthor takes over Flash's body, takes his mask on and goes, yeah, this doesn't help me. He puts it back on.
Yeah, he just takes off his mask and he's like, I have no idea who that is. Iconic. This is very much giving that.
I'm going to be honest, other than like, I don't know, most superheroes, I bet if you see their face, you will not know who it is.
Yeah.
Even Bruce Wayne.
Unfortunately, so many superheroes for decades have just been white men. So,
yeah. But even if he wasn't white, you go like, oh, that's just some generic black guy or a brown guy or a Asian guy. You're not going to really know who it is.
Yeah, no, unless you actually have details on them.
Yeah.
Getting back to the story, then we see a new candidate for DA running for the office of district attorney named Sam Bullitt, and his entire platform is anti-Spider-Man.
Yeah.
His whole thing is about you want to be safe out there and you want to clean up the streets, then you don't want criminals, but mass vigilantes like Spider-Man running around. Sam Bullitt was in the original 60s run of Spider-Man, and he also ran on this Law and Order, harsh on crime platform. But it was also revealed he was a white supremacist. So there's that.
And
so you already, if you know, you know. And even if you don't, when someone says stuff like Law and Order, you're like, yeesh.
Yeah, and this Bullet it's obvious the way he's placed that he's connected to the Kingpins.
Yeah, it's juxtaposed immediately with the Kingpin talking about wanting to get Peter and wanting to get Spider-Man. So this guy is definitely like a stooge for the Kingpin.
Yeah.
But Jonah Jameson loves him and endorses him. It's because it's the anti-Spider-Man platform. This is everything he's ever dreamed of. He's purely running on that, and he's like, yes, hell yeah, we're endorsing you.
It's funny because all the other reporters are like, J. Jonah Jameson, this guy represents nothing you believe in. You just hate him because you also hate Spider-Man.
Yeah, everyone's like, Robbie is like, what are you doing, Jonah? Just open your eyes. Yeah, like, clear the Spider-Man hatred from your eyes and look at reality here. But meanwhile, Peter's just kind of moping at home, and There's this fun scene where MJ comes in to cheer him up. It backfires because she actually has a list. She's trying to help him, and she's like, oh, here's a list of everyone who knows that you're Spider-Man. Just because this is too many people, and we gotta, like, keep track of this so we
Yeah.
know, like, who might be plotting against you.
She's
And it's mainly just, okay, Doc Ock, Green
Norman
Goblin,
Osborn
Harry.
and a bunch of the Avengers and Nick Fury are on the list.
Yeah, the Ultimates and the X-Men, too.
I love how Logan gets his own line though. It just says
Yeah,
Logan.
Logan just gets his. You see the list, and it just says Logan for one of them, and I'm like, all right, well, he's one of the X-Men, so. But you have to single him out, too. Because he learned first.
Yeah.
Following him home.
Yeah. Oh, to be
But,
fair, and Spider-Man did just tell the X-Men it was him, so they only
yeah.
know because of him.
Yeah, some of these are his fault.
Yeah.
Like that one in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, Peter's kind of upset and stressed out, and MJ's like, all right, I'm going, I'll go home.
And she says politicians suck, and she goes like, "Always, they're always taking orders from who's giving them money." And
Yeah.
Peter goes, "That's a good idea."
Yeah, she's like, someone might be pulling Bullet's strings.
Yeah.
And he's like, but who? And she's like, look at the list. It's a really funny moment of like, this might be a good hint for you.
Yeah. Oh, this is when it was the law was you had to, every time you donated the money to a politician, you had to I forgot, this was back in the day where you had to disclose who's giving you the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also think it's a reference that in some universes MJ is a journalist too, no?
I think that's just like the PlayStation games.
And the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, I think.
Oh, I never watched that.
Oh, you're not missing much. Like, it's a bad show with a few good episodes. Yes, the problem with Marvel shows, most of them are not good, but you have to justify them because of the fact that they do occasionally do a really good episode, which is such an odd
Yeah.
thing. They're bad shows with some good episodes, as opposed to most
Yeah.
shows which are good with bad episodes. But
No, that's true.
yeah,
I miss Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but
yeah,
I know I'm not alone there.
yeah. But so maybe this is. So I guess this is where we get the idea that MJ is a journalist, or if this even is a reference to anything, or if this goes.
I don't think it's really that big of a sign. Maybe later on we might get more of a hint at that, but I think this is just a nice scene of her being helpful for his life as Spider-Man and kind of giving him ideas and hints about how to move forward. I think it's a really nice scene, and it's a very sweet, like, cute scene, like his girlfriend kind of like helping him through this. Like when Peter's moping and getting to be a little sad sacky and he's literally laying on the ground like everyone hates me, MJ is the one to like pull him out of that funk and to kind of like get him moving again.
Yeah, and it's also showing that like, oh, she's smart, and like I feel like people criticize superhero love interest, a lot of the originals, for being like kind of useless. And no, like she's the one making his costume, she's the one helping him emotionally, and she makes a list of something for him to do. And she's like, I consider doing this.
No, she motivates him. She like gives him a task, sets him on his journey through the rest of this arc, I think, which is great. Yeah. And then later on, though, we see a lot of the hate that is being thrown at Spider-Man, especially there's even like a bus ad of Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock and just very anti-Spider-Man, anti-vigilante. And Spider-Man's on this bus. And this old lady is yelling, that mutant freak, it's him. He's the one who's like causing chaos. And I gotta say, he handles it very well because, well, first she throws a Snapple at him, which is hilarious.
Yes, we're getting real life brand references. Also, yeah. And he goes like, I didn't call you names even though you wore that hat in public.
Yeah. It's a very funny zinger on his part, but also a good way of, he catches the Snapple, he keeps his composure, and he's like, I want you to remember that. All these things, including about how I did not call you names, despite that hat.
Which is unfair because people, I feel nowadays, people would like that hat.
I mean, it's an okay hat.
It's a good hat. All hats are good.
I don't know about all hats. You can't just generalize like that.
Oh, yeah, but people wear hats in New York are generally like, we approve, right?
I mean, who doesn't love a good hat? But I feel like it's all in the execution, you know?
Yeah. Well, she wore a good hat.
It was fine.
Her fashion aged better than most other characters' fashion.
Well, listen, she was a bigot, so she deserved it.
Okay.
I also think, because that's what I think about this scene, it makes me think of how Spider-Man, a lot of the time he does endure a lot of the same hatred and prejudice that the X-Men and mutants will, which I think he shares. I think because a lot of the time you do see people who love him and cheer for him, but I feel like just as much of the time you see people who are very fearful and mistrustful of Spider-Man and hate him for that, like in this scene. And I think in the same way as the X-Men, a lot of the time he has to take the high road and he has to control how he reacts to this anti-mutant, or in this case anti-Spider-Man sentiment in public, and he has to, be like, all right, I want you all to know I didn't fight back, I didn't retaliate, I just went about my day and moved on. So think about that.
It's also nice because like it shows how connected this universe is. Like people aren't going, oh, that's Spider-Man, but those mutants, like they kind of hate, all. And if you hate mutants, you probably hate Spider-Man because you assume he's a mutant. There's
Yeah,
not this
like the
universe.
woman even calls him a mutant.
Yeah, it's not a like 616 Marvel Son of Accused or like a universe where like they technically are in the same universe, but like people don't seem to know what a mutant is when they meet the other characters and hate the mutants when they do see the X-Men.
Yeah, it's a much smaller universe at this point, so that way it feels more interconnected there.
Yeah.
On top of all the other bad news, Peter is at the Bugle and he sees the headlines that the Kingpin is free, the juice is loose, as they say. And Peter just has a mental breakdown, this meltdown of like, what? But he murdered a guy on camera. They literally have it on tape. And he was like, oh, and they played it on CNN for like 6 months on loop. But he's a murderer. How is he just walking free now?
Yeah.
And at the same time in the office, Robbie is arguing with Jonah, and he's like, how can you be endorsing someone like Sam Bullock? And so it's already a very heated environment. He's like, you would never endorse him otherwise. And then Peter's also like, yeah, because the anti-Spider-Man platform is pretty harsh, but also why aren't we going after someone like the Kingpin, who is literally walking free for murder? And Jonah is in a bad spot and totally like rips his head off and fires him.
Yeah.
Like immediately. He's like, this is no place for kids. Get out, you're fired. And that's the end of issue 47. It's a big like shocker of an ending for that.
There's also something interesting, I feel, where he goes like, you could be better means that at one, there's the old Jonah Jameson thing where like he actually is a good reporter. He is actually this very progressive and crusading figure. He just hates Spider-Man. We really didn't get the hint of this until this issue.
Yeah, like that's his major blind spot is Spider-Man for whatever reason. We'll get the reason for this version later in the story, but I feel like every version of Jonah has a different motive for hating Spider-Man, and it has a different way of how it affects and impacts his integrity and career as a journalist.
Yeah.
And I think, otherwise, in so many cases, he is such a good journalist and he has so much integrity. As soon as Spider-Man pops up, he just loses it.
Yeah, because I think in 616, on racial issues, is very progressive. He's
pro-mutant.
He is pro-mutant for some reason, which you don't
expect. He defends mutants on so many occasions in the main comics in 616. There's so many X-Men comics. Yeah, it's just Spider-Man.
Yeah, no one else is kind of funny. It's like, oh,
it's insane.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah. I still like that comic where Spider-Man goes, he only hates me because I'm black.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I didn't even know, man. It's like,
it was so funny. And this was years before Miles Morales was even created. Spider-Man jokingly pulled the race card on Jonah, and he was like, some of my best friends are, I would never.
Does he hate Miles Morales? Because I know Miles Morales is now in 616, so.
I don't know. I think he was too focused on Peter at that point.
We're gonna have to hit Miles. I always forget Miles Morales is in the same universe as like all these crazy Ultimate comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're gonna get to his comics.
I know.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and then he moves to 616 in a mysterious incident.
Exactly. Sometimes known as Secret Wars.
Are we gonna get to Secret Wars on here?
I would think so.
Yeah.
It's the end of the Ultimate Universe. We should cover it.
Yeah. There is another comic where they reveal the Ultimate Universe does survive Secret Wars, by the way.
Oh, there are several of those comics. Yeah. Anyways, but we'll probably get to those.
Yeah.
But then we got to issue 48, picks up right where 47 left off. Peter is post-firing, and so he's trying to collect his stuff. And Jonah's like, just so you know, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And I think that's just the last straw for Peter, because then he just goes off at Jonah, and he's like, all I did was ask you a question, and you fired me. I'm looking for help. I'm looking for advice. You fire me immediately. Yeah. And he's just like, this sucks, and storms off. And Robbie is also mad at him.
Yeah.
And he's like,
The kid's right. He says the kid's right.
Yeah, and he's like, this is not the Jonah I know. I've known you for over 20 years now, and you would never just fire a kid for asking a question like this, and you would have more integrity than that. And then as he walks away, he's like, I liked it better when you drank. Which is like, holy shit, Robbie,
I
you
mean,
can't say that.
that's what some people say to me.
Oh my gosh.
It's called a.
I if it wasn't for the rim shot, I wouldn't have been able to tell if you were joking or not, I'll be honest.
Sometimes you just go on a bad date, man. And people like it better when you're not sober.
Well, I mean, that's different than telling probably a former alcoholic is the implication here that he liked it better when he drank, which is, oh man, that's rough.
It's also this thing, not the alcoholic thing, where I feel like a lot of great scientists or teachers or journalists and lawyers and politicians are just better when they're younger. And as they get older, a lot of the things that gave them a great edge just kind of dulls out. Same thing with a lot of
Yeah,
comic writers or novelists. Like you notice when they're older, like some of their
no, that's fair.
brilliance dulls off. And I feel especially for journalism, where you're writing and you're investigating, and people
Yeah.
get more like not necessarily politically more conservative with that too, but like they just get more set in their ways and conservative in that way,
Yeah, totally. They get a little more comfortable, a little more settled, a little less fearless and bold in what they're doing.
and more stubborn too.
Yeah.
And I feel like we
Yeah,
get hints
totally.
of that with Jonah. Like in some issues, they kind of say like your paper sucks, and but Robbie goes, "No, it was like the best paper back in the day." But
Yeah, you should have seen it.
yeah, you should have seen it or read it.
Yeah, when you're younger and you feel like you have less to lose, and there's definitely more passion and fire there when you're just starting out. Yeah, then we cut to Peter, who's furious. He's fuming. He's swinging around. He's looking at like anti-Spider-Man billboards, and he's like, you know what? If they think I'm a menace, I'm gonna be a menace. And he decides to swing over to Fisk's tower that he's just got standing in the middle of New York. And there's this hilarious sequence that I always think of a lot, and it was really funny to see it here, where Fisk is having this big meeting with his lawyers and everyone talking about all the legal trouble he's going through and how he can continue his legitimate operations of business while he's still caught up in these murder raps and everything. And then while that's happening, you see each panel Spider-Man just swinging closer and closer and closer to the window before finally just slamming against the window. When you think he's going to break through, he just hits right up against that wall. It's so
Yeah,
funny. I'm like, rip.
and he's just standing there looking cocky because Spider-Man can't get in. He's smashing, or I don't know if he's trying to get in or if he's just pounding the windows to scare him. But
I don't know. I think he's really trying to get in because he was swinging real fast and hard at that window. So he's pounding and hitting the windows, and he's telling him to come out and face him. And Fisk is just smirking so smugly at him.
I feel Fisk, well, Kingpin. Though we found out he doesn't like being called Kingpin, so let's be nice and
Yeah,
call him what
he
he
likes
prefers.
Mr. Fisk. Don't
Yeah,
call him Kingpin. Yeah.
yeah. It's like how Al Capone liked to be called Snorky. Don't call him
Yeah.
Scarface.
Yeah.
fucking,
Exactly.
fucking Snorky like killed 12 people yesterday.
I feel like I would prefer Scarface.
Well, yeah, but if you're like, if the police are after you, do you want to be called, oh, we gotta catch Scarface or we gotta catch Snorky? We could do it another day.
That sounds goofy and so dumb.
Yeah,
Snorky.
but like, it works for
Am I
Kingpin
a
too.
pet? Yeah.
No, but it works for Kingpin. You want to be called the Kingpin of crime? Do you want to be called, here's Wilson, here's Bill Fisk, just your
Yeah, I
regular
guess
entrepreneur.
I see what you mean. Okay, it makes you seem a little more innocent in the public eye.
Yeah.
I get
Uh,
that.
yeah. So don't call him Kingpin. That's offensive.
I'll call you Mr. Kang.
Or Kangpin.
Kangpin. Oh, Jesus. And then at school, Peter is sitting in his social studies class, and his teacher is asking if anyone wants to discuss current events. And Peter is like, say less,
Yeah.
and goes on this whole rant. And he's like, are we letting Wilson Fisk run around? Again,
Yeah.
there's so many moments like this in this arc, especially in the first few issues, where Peter's like, this guy murdered people. And we're
Yeah.
all okay with that. It's a very innocent, very young, impassioned response to injustice in the world. It's something that a young person would they'd be like, this is ridiculous. I mean, as a young person myself, I see many things in the world where I look at it and I'm like, why is no one going to do anything about this? This is crazy. This is messed up.
I,
And the teacher says, oh, well, the legal system is there in place. It's not perfect, but we got it. And Peter's like, it sucks. And she's like, you got to think of the bigger picture. And Peter's like, what bigger picture? So we can just say that this guy's a good guy despite the fact that he murders people.
and Teacher goes, we gotta trust the legal system. Mr. Fisk brings jobs and philanthropy to the city.
Yeah, and Peter's just like, when do you just give up? Is it when you're in college?
College.
When you hit 30? When you get married? When do you just give up and decide, let's just let him do whatever because he seems like kind of a nice guy or he does this philanthropic work or whatever,
He
but
brings
he can keep
jobs.
murdering. Yeah, exactly.
But I also think it's like a very issue of the comics of the time where a lot of them focus on criminals get off because of lawyers, and I feel like this comic is still part of that trend.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that is like the big reason why he gets out in this story, so I see that.
yeah.
But the teacher just immediately tells
You're,
Peter to leave.
and by that I mean don't come back.
Yeah, literally, because he cuts to it's Peter hanging out with Aunt May at her workplace. She's like, "You were suspended?"
Yeah,
She's like, "I was told you threatened the teacher," and he's like, "I didn't threaten her."
yeah. I just said she sold out, which is funny because the teacher looks like a hippie. I don't know, like the way she dresses is very
Yeah.
hippie-ish, like an old hippie who became a teacher that you and I probably
Hmm.
remember because we're the last ones to see them work.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely gives off, especially being a social studies teacher. But I just looking at her vibe and the way that she's dressed in these illustrations and like her whole aesthetic, I'm like, yeah, this is a social studies teacher who's a former hippie for
From the
sure.
2000s. The kids these days, this is a historical moment because these kids these days don't remember these teachers because they retired after like they taught us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these kids today we don't know what it was like being taught by former hippies.
I know, especially on the West Coast. But it's also interesting because the contrast is Aunt May's a hippie, but she didn't sell
No, yeah, Aunt
that.
May still sticks to a lot of her principles and her morals.
Yeah, yeah. But they're also at like this office where like she's sitting at a cubicle, so maybe she did
Yeah, I
sell.
don't know what she does in this version.
Like she's working at a cubicle, so maybe she did sell out, man.
I don't know. She might just be in an office space working for who knows. I'm sure we'll get more details later.
She made a peace with the system, the establishment, man.
Yeah, well, at least she's able to be there for her nephew. I
Yeah.
think this is a really nice scene between Peter and Aunt May where it's not often in this series so far that we've seen the two of them just having an open, honest conversation about stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like this is the post like Aunt May going to therapy issue where they've been working on more of their communication issues and
Yeah.
just being honest with each other as much as they can be. And he tells her all about what happened at school and he vents about this whole Wilson Fisk thing and like what's going on. And I think she understands as much as she can. I think the problem is still that, of course, she doesn't know that he's Spider Man, so she doesn't know exactly why this pisses him off so much. But she's like, "Oh, I know exactly what it is. It's because of the burglar who killed your Uncle Ben." She's like, "Yeah, sometimes I'm scared he's gonna come back, or I think he's gonna be loose, but he's gone. Like, don't. It's okay." And you can see in his face in these illustrations, he's like, "There's so much I can't say that I want to say." Right
Yeah.
now she doesn't fully get it.
But she's also really happy because she's like, I'm a former hippie who was motivated by justice. He's the young kids are taking over now and taking our spots, man.
She is very much like that, and by that she's literally like this badass mom who is like, okay, so apologize to your teacher. Meanwhile, she calls up Jonah Jameson and goes on this whole rant about you treated Peter horribly and it's disgraceful what you did and your paper sucks, yeah. And she literally ends with this like drop the mic like line where she's like, "Oh, by the way, Hitler called and he wants his look back. Yeah, nice mustache." And she just slams down the phone and she's like, "What do you want for dinner?" It's such a cool mom moment from her,
Yeah.
and you just love to see it.
There's the next scene is we're with Ben Urich. He's interviewing Bulett, and
Yeah, that's right.
he asks questions like, "Hey, you're anti-Spider-Man. What about the Ultimates?" And Bulett goes, "Well, like they work for the government, so they're not technically vigilantes." And he goes like, "What about mutants?" And he goes, "Well, the president says we can live in peace with them, so why not?" And he goes like, "Yeah,
It gives like a rational explanation for why in universe he's just going after Spider-Man,
yeah."
and also kind of it's puts Spider-Man in a unique position where he hasn't been integrated with the government and the administration the way that the Ultimates and now the X-Men have as of like the ending of the Mark Miller run.
Which is
So
interesting because he is semi-integrated with Shield already. It's just they won't tell anyone about it.
yeah, it's top secret. It's on a need to know basis. So they're like, we can know everything about you and constantly be monitoring you, but we're not going to help your public image.
It's kind of the same thing with 616 though, where like Spider-Man is occasionally part of the Avengers. He has a relationship with Shield and the government,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really help him out. Or sometimes they do, but like people still hate him, assume he's a vigilante.
Yeah, I mean, in the main universe, in the new Avengers run that Brian Michael Bendis did, after he joins the Avengers and they're about to go public, they try to talk to J. Jonah Jameson and make peace with him. And then afterwards, when the Avengers go public, J. Jonah Jameson goes back on his word and literally writes a scathing editorial against Spider-Man and this new group of Avengers, especially because Spider-Man's a member. So even when he is quote unquote legitimate as a superhero, there's still a court of public opinion to go against.
Is
So
there a court of opinion, or is it just J. Jonah Jameson's just in
it might
charge of
just
that
be
public?
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'll be honest, like the New York Times just hates, Bill down the street, he sucks. I'll go like, maybe the New York Times is right. Maybe they have a point. Maybe Bill does suck.
Man. Well, that's kind of what Bullitt is saying in his interview with Ben Urich, because Bullitt is saying all this suspicion on all the different accusations that you have around Spider-Man, even if he isn't the culprit in some of them, the fact that there's all this suspicion and allegations all around him, it makes him look guilty. So there's something really wrong with this character, which I find is very interesting because then Urich pushes back on Bullitt and he's like, hey, what about Fisk? Because there's literally a picture of Sam Bullitt like fishing with Fisk and his lawyer, and he's like, what about all the suspicions around him and the actual like murder charges against him? Does that make him guilty? And the guy loses it very quickly. He's like, I thought we had an understanding, and he smashes Urich's tape recorder.
It's funny because Ben goes, I don't know what understanding you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, are you implying your law partner is like working for the mob? And he goes like, that's not what I meant. And he goes like, but you said it.
He's like, there's no such thing as mob lawyers. He's like, but this definitely hit close to home, especially it feels like, honestly, a lot of Trump's cronies today.
I didn't think of this until you mentioned it, but it is actually partially about those people because in the 2000s and the 90s, when Ultimate was being written, that was when Rudy Giuliani, a lot of the Trump people were becoming politically active, or they were at the height of their pre-Trump careers. Bullitt being this tough on crime lawyer who's going to take down vigilantes. That's Rudy Giuliani. Those were the guys running New York City and running for mayor at the time.
Yeah.
And then we brought them back like 20 years later for some reason. So it feels relevant because it's literally the same people.
And they will like cast aspersions and suspicions on another group, and as soon as the light is shown back on them, they're like, what? Stop asking me about that. That's ridiculous. I thought we had an understanding.
Yeah, and like the media back then was always accused of having an understanding with like the people in charge of the mayor, the governor, the president.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's also funny because like Ben is just not aware of it. If there was an understanding, he wasn't aware of it. He was like,
yeah,
what?
Because then he goes back to Jonah and he's like, this guy should have been prepared for this question. It was a simple question. Like basic media training would get you for that.
Not just a simple question. It was like, we were trying to be positive because you told me to be like, give him a fluff piece.
Yeah, I didn't even throw him that big of a curveball. I didn't even push him that hard on it. And he immediately cracked under the pressure.
JJ is kind of pissed. Like, it's supposed to be a fluff piece. And he goes like, well, I have the recording.
Yeah, so, because he had an extra tape recorder in his pocket, even though the other one was smashed.
Yeah.
And so through this, Robbie and Ben finally get through to Jonah and they're like, Bullitt, he's scum and he's bad news. Like, you have to stop endorsing him. And then this last page also takes place at the same time when Aunt May is calling Jonah. And you just see his face and his live reaction to Aunt May reading him to filth, which is very funny. I thought that was great because he's just stone-faced. And you can just imagine all the nasty things she's saying on the other end.
Yeah, no, this is the same time. He's getting this call from this woman who's concerned about her kid. We found that he has also like a concern for children, kind of. Right when his friends and like his best reporters are like calling him out for his shitty behavior, so it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, this is a big wake-up call for him.
Yeah, maybe I should hate Spider-Man less.
Which is then reinforced in the beginning of the next issue, issue 49, because he's immediately ambushed by the enforcers in the parking lot. Because apparently he had just published an editorial that was going against Bullitt, and they want Jonah to retract this editorial. And then they're threatening to kill him, and guess who shows up to save the day?
Spider-Man. But it's funny, because Spider-Man was there to be angry at Jonah.
Yeah, he was actually just going to harass him for, mudslinging and dragging his name through the press for the billionth time. So he was really just there to mess with him. But it was good that he was there because he was able to save him. And he wasn't happy about it either. He's like, I gotta save him now? Come
Yeah.
on.
Kind of reminds me of in the 2000s with the. I'm not sure if this started in 616. I don't think so. I think it started with like the non 616 stuff where Spider-Man would just mess with Jonah in the 2000s. With the J.K. Simmons Jonah, like Tobey Maguire just shoots a web out his mouth.
Yeah.
Which I'll be
Yeah, let mom
honest,
and dad talk for a minute. Yeah.
that might have killed Jonah, and because it seems like it covered his whole post.
Asphyxiation by web. Yeah.
He's a menace. He just killed newspaper
That's a
guys.
nasty way to go. He's done that so many times in the comics, too.
Was that before Toby did it or after though?
I mean, he did it way back in like the Lee Ditko comics.
Oh, I don't remember. Oh, I need to reread those.
It's a classic Spidey versus J. Jonah Jameson move. Just web his mouth shut.
Yeah.
There's this big fight with the Enforcers. Eventually, the Enforcers have Spider-Man right where they want him. Ox has got him dangling by his leg.
They also kind of suck. Spider-Man right points out they kind of suck. And they do get him, but like they shoot Spider-Man, but then they accidentally shoot one of each other. They grab Spider-Man with a whip, but they also whip one of each other, and they kind of go, we kind of suck at coordination. And Spider-Man goes, yeah, you guys kind of do. And
They're stumbling all over each other. They're amateurs.
Yeah.
Even though somehow they made it to be Kingpin's Enforcers. Who knew?
Well, like, I guess it's just they don't fight guys with heat powers. I'll be honest, like, most gangs, I feel, if they gang up on this guy and all of a sudden he busts out spider powers, they're not going to be prepared.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
This is the big leagues by comparison.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they've got Spider-Man right where they want him, Jonah actually intervenes, pulls out his tape recorder, and starts asking them questions about how long you've been working for the Kingpin and what's the Kingpin's interest in Bullet. And that throws them off just long enough where they're like, what are you trying to do? Where Spider-Man recovers in time and gives Ox a wedgie.
Yeah.
In this really funny, like ridiculous way to win a fight. And in his head, he was even thinking like, I hate myself for doing this.
Yes, because he's been wedgied before. Now he's the bully.
Yeah, the oppressed become the oppressor.
Exactly. Once you get spider powers, it changes you, man.
Yeah, no, you become the one giving atomic wedgies.
Yeah.
With your spider strength.
He just beats the crap out of Ox. He just goes like, why won't you go down? And Ox just falls down on the car and smashes the windows and goes, okay.
Yeah, it's a hard-fought battle, but he wins, which is great.
It's easier to win if you have spider powers, and the guy you're fighting has just been wedgied.
Yeah, that's always true. Yeah, that's always been my motto.
Yeah, and then JJJ tries to interview Spider-Man. He was like, why you wear a mask, you menace? Take it off. Why? Is it true you're horribly disfigured down there?
Yeah, everyone asks about that. I'm like, why? Just because... Why is that the first assumption? Because he's wearing a mask?
Well, before COVID, if you saw a guy wear a mask, you'd assume they're injured, right?
Maybe, but they're not all just like Doctor Doom, who are like wearing their masks to hide their scars.
But if you on the street, if you saw guys just walking around Boston with surgical masks, and this was before COVID, you go, "Oh, they just got injured, right?"
Like, I think maybe they're sick.
Okay, that's
worked at a hospital. I don't know.
Okay, but like if you work at a hospital, you take the mask off once you're done.
Maybe they forgot. Long day.
Tomato, potato.
Well, anyways, yeah, Spider-Man's not going to tell Jonah why he wears a mask. And Spider-Man's also asking Jonah why he changed his mind about Bullet. And Jonah's like, read the paper. So they're in a standoff.
Yeah.
And then after he leaves, then like the worst security ever shows up. And they're like, Mr. Jameson, we heard shots. That was 5 minutes ago.
Was that security or was that police?
I think that was like the building security.
I thought it was police because they are going to protect like a big newspaper, right?
Tomato, potato, as you say. It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Then later, Jonah shows up at Peter's doorstep.
Yeah.
And he hates going to Queens.
Typical Manhattanite.
Yeah, honestly. Then Jonah goes on this big moving monologue, revealing in this version why he hates Spider-Man. There's this whole backstory about his astronaut son who died on the Orion, this famous like space shuttle.
Yeah.
And he never learned how or why. Like NASA said it was classified.
Yeah.
And it's very different from the main version because his son is alive in that version, John Jameson, the astronaut.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives him this tragic backstory to justify why he hates Spider-Man, because he's not a hero. Like his son, the astronaut, is a hero. men in masks are not heroes, which for me, it's a little weak.
The connection is kind of weak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I feel like there's a lot of flimsy reasons why Jonah hates Spider-Man. One of my favorite reasons was in the 90s cartoon
yeah.
when I think there's a moment where Spider-Man's pissed off and threatening Jonah, and it flashes back to the last time he was threatened by men in masks. And then it's revealed those guys killed his wife. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I believe in the 616, he just hates Spider-Man out of like a philosophy, right? He just goes, "I'm against vigilantes."
Well, in the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko comics, the reason is that Jonah envies Spider-Man. He represents something he can never be, so he's just going to spend his time tearing him down. That's also pretty weak.
So, do they explain why he hates Spider-Man in the 2000s movies? Not really, right?
Not really, no.
Yeah, I do feel like the worst slash not that it's a bad portrayal, Jameson, but it's just like morally the worst one was the MCU where he just hates Spider-Man because he's like a conspiracy theorist and thinks
He's
Spider-Man.
just like Alex Jones, yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst Jameson in terms of like I feel morality.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely. So I
yeah,
like it when there's a little more nuance where he's still deep down a good person and a good journalist, but he has this irrational hatred of
yeah.
Spider-Man.
Jameson, especially in this one, I think is the first time we get a sense that he is actually a good person because we don't really get that with Jameson in the other arcs so far. We kind of just feel he's like a very sleazy businessman. Here, it seems like no, he does have journalistic integrity. And he does have something he's trying to accomplish. Yeah,
No, that's true. And yeah, it's not the strongest of motivators, but at least he does come across as a better person here. And he even gives Peter his job back and says that he's going to have him shadowing Ben Urich on the street, similar to what he did as a
yeah.
kid.
I think that's back in the day. That's how you make it as a journalist, right? Well, according to like the movies, it's like you start off young, and then like the editor like assigns you to help out a journalist, whatever.
Yeah, you get put on a beat, you shadow someone, it's that kind of thing, hit the
Yeah,
streets. Spider-Man later confronts the Kingpin at his restaurant, and
yep.
he's like holding a newspaper and like mocking him because Jonah wrote an article in the Bugle about how the Kingpin is like backing Bullet. He kind of taunts him a little and he's just messing with him, which is really fun. I love when he just sits around and like mocks him a little, but he's also like, I don't understand you.
Kingpin
Then
goes.
Kingpin's like, I'm gonna find out who you are, and then I'm gonna show up to your house and show you exactly what kind of person I am. And Spider-Man's immediately like, "Are you
Are you
hitting on
hitting
me?"
on me?
Which is one of my favorite moments. It's so funny.
Yeah. I really like this. The thing with Kingpin and Spider-Man, this one, is that like Kingpin's used to people respecting and fearing him, and here's someone who's not afraid of him, and it just like confuses him. He goes like, "What?"
Yeah, he gives zero fucks about Kingpin. He's like, "You don't scare me. I'm gonna stand up to you no matter what because you represent everything I'm against." And he webs Kingpin's feet to the floor and just leaves. And Kingpin's like, "Why'd you web my feet to the floor?" And he's like, "Well, looks like you don't understand me and I don't understand you." But yeah, then we cut to issue number 50. This is a big double size, like 50th issue spectacular. It's pretty cool. And I think that's the perfect issue to introduce Black Cat.
Yeah, everyone's favorite Black Cat. She's really big on Reddit and Spider-Man internet now. All of a sudden, like,
Black Cat is just a great character, and I think she's grown so much and changed over the years
yeah,
to the point where I think I'm
no,
not
no,
surprised that she's still popular.
not always for the better. I'm gonna be honest. At times,
Yeah, because sometimes she can just be shallowly interpreted as this sexy eye candy bad girl that Spider-Man gets to be with just because he's a cool guy or whatever. I
but
think there's been a lot more to expand upon and develop the character over the decades and make her a fully formed three-dimensional
but
character on her own right, outside of
yeah,
just Spider-Man.
yeah. But there's also I feel a thing where there's always an attempt with Spider-Man to keep it frozen in amber. In a way, Marvel doesn't even do that to the same degree with other characters. And occasionally they go like, "Oh, Black Cat's too three-dimensional. We gotta make it back when she was just a sexy criminal."
Yeah, I think anytime she's reduced to just being a love interest for Spider-Man, when she's had the whole arc of that and grown out of it, it can be pretty regressive for the character. But I think when you're introducing her for the first time, like in these comics, it's good to just start with the basics and then build from there. So this gives us like a basic foundation for Ultimate Black Cat, who isn't really that different from the main Black Cat. but it's a lot of fun. The first half of this issue is this big heist that she's pulling off in this skyscraper in Manhattan. It's a very Mission Impossible style Ocean's 11 type heist. And what's cool about these pages is that like most of the pages don't have any words at all or any text. It's very visually focused because it's like a quiet like heist. Like you want to focus on what's happening. And I think the cool part of it is the not knowing, interpreting in your own imagination, like, oh, what's going on here? And then later the story fills it in. But for now, it's just very cool. She's ziplining from one building to the next, and she's breaking through electronic keys, and she's spraying around this painting to see the lasers around it, and then opening the painting to find a vault underneath. Like, it's very classic, like, heist movie, which is perfect for Black Cat.
Yeah. My favorite, though, is that she just throws a bucket of water at the poor janitor.
She's causing bad luck left and right as she's sneaking into this building. This bucket of mop water just spills right on this janitor's face.
Yeah, and so she could take the janitor's fingerprints. It's always guards. Okay, you're gonna go after the guards. The janitor has like better things to do. Come on, man. Leave the working man, or in this case, the working woman alone. You know?
This poor janitor is just catching strays.
Yeah, like when you break into a house, there's two people gotta leave alone: the dog, the janitor, and the gardener. Because they're the working man. They work for a living. I mean, so do security guards, but
but they're like paid to deal with this kind of stuff. The janitor is not.
Honestly, security guards oftentimes not paid to deal with the job.
Yeah, they seem seriously underqualified because they get schooled by Black Cat, where she tricks them to go up to the roof, where they got locked out on the roof. And then after she breaks into the room, then the guards enter into the room. They trip because I guess she emanates bad luck. And one of them accidentally misfires his gun. Bullets ricochet, hit the sprinkler system. Water comes pouring down on top of them.
In 616, sometimes she does have probability bad luck, like manipulation bad luck power, no?
Yeah, no, that was a thing for a while in like the 80s. I think when in the main comics, when she made a deal with the Kingpin, it was kind of a deal with the devil because then she got bad luck powers because she was partnered romantically and like super heroically with Spider-Man at the time.
Yeah.
So if she was going to keep up with his powers, then she needed those bad luck powers on her side. But that was also bad news because it came straight from the Kingpin.
The other weird thing is that I think this is when Marvel was giving a lot of their unpowered characters powers too, because I think this is when Ant-Man, who doesn't have powers, was given. No, he was near King Pym particles so much that he could use them. He emanates them from his body, and I'm like, for most people, when they get exposed to a material, they get cancer. But
I mean, that's just the answer for most origin stories in Marvel. Is like that person realistically would have just gotten cancer and died.
Did you know? I forgot which university did a study. If like the spider was real, could it give someone powers? And they said no. And I was like, boo.
I can always hope, but I don't. I don't really want to unpack that can of worms when the time comes.
You live in Massachusetts. There's ticks that give you powers there. Not good ones, but
that's a different hero.
Hey, ticks are close enough to spiders.
Not close enough.
Have you ever been bitten by a spider?
No, thank God.
Oh, I've been bitten. It's terrible, man. Depending on the spider.
That sounds horrible. Yeah.
Depending on the spider. Some spiders are like, oh, it's mildly annoying. To some spiders are like, oh, you could theoretically die. Oh no, some of them just kill you outright, I think. Right?
Some are nicer than others, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to find out either way.
You might get spider powers.
Or I might die. Yeah, but Black Cat breaks in and is escaping with... It's revealed that this object she stole from the safe is this tablet fragment that we're going to learn more about as the story goes on, but longtime readers would probably recognize it from, again, another 60s Spider-Man reference, which is a lot of fun. I love that about these issues.
Yeah.
But then waiting on the roof for her is Spider-Man, who is totally just taken off guard by the fact that this burglar is a sexy cat lady.
Yeah, and she goes, "You're better than the usual riffraff I find on the roofs."
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, he's not wrong there.
Yeah.
It kind of throws him off his game, too.
Yeah. Also, I feel he's taking it easy on her because he's, like, somewhat stunned by her.
Yeah, I think so.
If this was, like, what's his face? One of those skinny punk villains he finds out, he would have body slammed him already.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like he is thrown off mentally because he's a teenage boy and she's a super hot, like, cat burglar.
Yeah.
And so mentally that throws him off his game. And also I think it seems like she still has these like probability altering powers in some sense, or maybe that's just, I don't know, a
I
fun
don't think so.
coincidence.
I think it's just
Yeah.
that she's very much a cat bird, where she's like flipping and doing backflips and like swinging across.
Yeah, she's super skilled and trained at what she does. So there's this really fun like interaction where she is like outmaneuvering him in a lot of the ways, like flipping around him and sliding under him and like just doing it. It's this whole acrobatic dance they've got going.
Yeah. Which is how it works in 616, right? When they meet, they always do this maneuvering and they chase each other around the roofs.
Yeah, it's really Spider-Man testing his speed and agility against hers and showing how skilled Felicia is as the Black Cat without having
Yeah.
really any physical powers.
Yep. He gets close and then she just kicks him, though. He goes flying.
Yeah, and so then she's like 7 years bad luck, and then he's running after her and he trips, and so then Peter looks out on the roof and she's gone.
Yeah.
And so that's the ending of the first chunk of this 50th issue. Spectacular. But yeah, well, then Peter's in the basement with MJ and he's still very distracted because of that whole encounter and the craziness that went with it.
Yeah.
And he's not focusing, but MJ's grabbing his attention. And when she gets his attention, he's like, I think I'm just going to take a break from being Spider-Man. I mean, he asks how she would feel about it, and she would be
She likes
excited
it.
if he wanted to. Yeah, because like she's like, well, we get to spend more time together. We don't have to worry about being in danger all the time. MJ also vents a bit about her dad cheating on her mom again, and also just about him like being miserable all the time and home life being tough. It's really funny because Peter's like, I would never cheat on you. But he just met the Black Cat, which is hilarious timing for that to happen.
Yeah, it's also kind of fantasy. Like not in a way he cheat, but he is kind of like stunned and thinking about her.
Yeah. This is a really hilarious time to be like, I'd never cheat, but also I just met this super sexy cat burglar and she's on my
And you
mind.
kind of want to see her again.
This
And to be fair,
arc
that
takes some
doesn't
turns
mean.
because of that.
Well, it's supposed to contrast MJ with Black Cat and like Peter with MJ's dad. Peter never cheats on MJ, like, but the temptation is there, and
Yeah, it's kind of the temptation of what could be and what he would be missing out on versus what he's already got.
kind of, yeah, and that's always been the thing with MJ and Black Cat in Spider Man is that I mean, they changed it again because they grow and change the characters a lot. But MJ is someone that Peter has to like watch out for, and but she's with, and she represents who he is at home. Like she represents Peter Parker, but like
Mm-hmm.
Black Cat represents this different world. She's a criminal. She also could take care of herself a bit better than MJ because she has power. Well, no, she doesn't. She sometimes has power, but she's in that life in a way MJ isn't.
Yeah, I think there's something like exciting and more dangerous about being with Black Cat, and also it's more of a thrill and more of his Spider-Man life, whereas MJ, I feel like there's more to it than that, really. It's more about him at heart as Peter Parker and being a regular guy versus being an adventurer and a crime fighter. And I mean,
Yeah,
that's at least initially what his relationship with Black Cat is, because at least during their time in the 80s together, for her, it was all about him being Spider Man, and she was not interested in him being Peter Parker. And that's changed over time, but
yeah,
I think at least the basic concept is the same here.
yeah.
This is the fun, exciting Spider Man side of things where this exciting older woman is interested in him and is like dangerous and fun. And then there's like, oh, here's my girlfriend back home with who
Yeah,
I am as a 16-year-old boy.
who's talking about school, and here's this lady giving me alcohol, which will happen in a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's
Oh,
this.
we'll get there.
It's actually like not like there's like old high school was like, do I go with the person who's like my age and like we gotta do homework together, or we do go for the cool person who get me beer?
Yeah, like literally.
That
It's a
never happened
rough,
to me because
it's a
I'm uncool.
temptation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it never happened to me either. This probably wouldn't happen to most people, I'll be honest.
it
This is one of the
happens
most
in every.
unrealistic things about Spider-Man.
Not unrealistic because I feel it does happen in every school. You always know someone who is dating someone older, and you always. But I feel back in the day it was like, oh, that's cool. Now we go, that's kind of problematic. But
I just mean unrealistic in that there's always so many hot ladies who are interested in him.
I mean, to be fair, she's interested in Spider-Man, not Peter Parker.
Yeah, just wait till she sees his face.
us ugly Americans deserve representation too.
Not to say he's ugly, but also he's 16, and she
Yeah,
is
that too.
clearly not.
They talk about getting married. It's funny. He
Yeah,
goes,
Peter and
"Yeah, I'll
MJ.
marry you."
Yeah, no, Peter and MJ are they're saying I love you, and then beyond that, they're like, "You think we're gonna get married?" And he's like, "Oh yeah," which is these crazy kids just like going off saying they're gonna get married.
Yeah, I will be fair. I'm gonna be fair to them. As crazy as that is, they've been through a lot. I feel a lot of couples, even married ones, got divorced when COVID happened. And they were like stuck together and had to be in semi danger. Peter and MJ have been through life and death together. They broke up
Yeah,
of it. They got together because of it. Again, they've been through a lot, and 2000 is not super far off from the days when people would meet their wife at 16, get married at 18. I feel like that was like the last time it was common. I mean, it still happens,
yeah.
but yeah.
There are a lot of couples who do meet and marry very young, and yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. These two have been through an extraordinary amount together
Uh-oh.
compared to people their age. So I guess for one thing, it is realistic in that a lot of people who are high school sweethearts who are dating in high school think that they'll end up together, or when you're with your first love, you think you're going to be together forever. But also in this case too, it's pretty likely they would end up getting married because of everything they've been through together.
Yeah. And like Peter Parker's always with, with MJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then things get very intense and crazy on the personal side because Aunt May's like, MJ, your dad's here. And apparently he read through her diary and is like, what's this about? Like, you almost dying on the bridge. And this was all the excuse he was looking for because he's like yelling at Peter and MJ storms off. And he's
Are
like,
you putting my daughter in danger?
yeah, exactly. And Peter's not having any of it and he's not going to answer that. And he's not going to tell him anything. And so he's just like, you're done. You're not going to see each other at school, or else I'm pulling her out of school and I'm putting her into a nunnery or some
Nunnery.
shit like that.
Yeah, and I'm
And,
like, I thought you guys were Jewish.
apparently it's just Peter's family.
Oh yeah, because he speaks Yiddish in this
Yeah.
kid too, for like a
Yeah.
brief
And I'm
time.
just like, why are you speaking Yiddish? What? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
then Peter also thinks that it is a good thing that MJ didn't mention anything about him being Spider-Man in her diary. And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, that's a relief. Otherwise, MJ's dad would have had more than enough to prosecute you with, legally, even in this case.
Not really, because she would step in, I guess, if things go like illegal, right? At that
Yeah,
point,
hopefully.
because they think they own Peter, right?
Yeah, exactly. When he turns
Peter.
18, anyways.
um, yeah, Aunt May kicks the dad out, and then she and Gwen go like, "We need to take a walk and listen in, see if he's abusing her, and call the cops if he is." Which is
Yeah.
Aunt May is pretty cool in this one.
She's a real one for that. It's intense and hardcore, but she's like, yeah, we gotta like make sure that everything's okay over there. So Gwen, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
Just when you think things couldn't get any worse, on the news it says that Spider-Man and Black Cat were partners in this robbery that Spider-Man tried to stop earlier. So just when you thought Spider-Man's public image was going to be fine, he takes a big L for this one.
So I thought he was freaking out. I know it was like, oh, I'm just gonna see this, assume I'm cheating on her with Black Cat.
No, the big thing was they literally said in the news that it was Spider-Man and his new partner committing this crime, and he's like, "Are
Yeah,
you kidding me?"
but he's always committing the crimes according to the news.
Well, he had just stopped Bullet and that whole thing in the media, and now he
Whoa,
has
no,
to
no,
deal with
no.
this
J. Jonah
accusation.
Jameson stopped Bullet.
The real hero, J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, right. Journalists. We love him. We hate him. We can't get rid of him.
Can't get enough of him. The next issue, issue 51, then opens up with this guy named Mr. Moore, who he was the one that Black Cat robbed in the past issue, stole a fragment of this mysterious tablet, and it's revealed that he is working with the Kingpin, and he was working to get this fragment to the Kingpin. So he's talking to Kingpin's lawyer, and the lawyer's upset that he lost it. But then Mr. Moore is also like, I don't know how anyone would have gotten it. You're the only ones who would have known. So there's a lot of business tension there. This guy has a lot of backbone considering he's working with the Kingpin. A lot of people really crumble and are so apologetic. This guy was like, hey man, I'm not equipped to deal with this. I did this specifically to give it to you. Why would I go through stealing it or losing it or whatever?
Well, to be fair, we'll find out later like, what this artifact is. This guy does have the upper hand in this like business relationship.
Yeah, no, that's true. He
Yeah.
does. And so, because he's got exactly what the Kingpin wants for whatever reasons.
You could be tough to anyone if you are grabbing them by the balls and you could crush them at any time.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah, no, it's true though. Like, considering what this guy has, Kingpin's tough, but you got his balls. You could crush him, and he's not gonna like that.
I don't know. I mean, given the rest of him being made of pure muscle, I don't know if the Kingpin's balls would be that easy to crush.
I feel that's gonna be like the soft spot. You just gotta give him like a hard enough tap, And they're already in your hands, so just grab and pull.
Yeah, get his Achilles heel.
Even his
Get
Achilles balls.
those little tiny Kingpins.
You
Anyways,
missed the little
yeah,
pins.
the little pins.
Yeah.
The lawyer then gives Mr. Moore this number to hire this mysterious figure. He's like, call this person, set up the meeting. They'll want to talk business,
Yeah.
and they'll take care of this for you. And then Mr. Moore's like, all right, but I don't know anything about these people. I don't know anything about Spider-Man. What's the big deal? And the lawyer's like, he's the most dangerous man on the face of the earth. And it literally just cuts to Peter sleeping in class in the next panel.
Just like how Spider-Man in real life is the most deadly bounty hunter in the world.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry, that's a deep cut reference.
Anyways, but it's very funny how, we just cut to Peter immediately asleep in class after this. He gets detention for sleeping in class. Mm-hmm. And then out in the lockers, as Peter's trying to talk to MJ, she's literally like, we shouldn't be talking. And he's like, are you serious? She's like, yeah, my dad's going to pull me out of school.
He's already talking to private schools.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's this now new tension where he's like, why won't you talk to me? Are you serious? And she's like, what do you want me to do? And she even says like, well, you wouldn't understand. You don't have a dad. And he gets so upset, but she doesn't even mean it that way. And so it's this whole thing, all this personal drama going on meanwhile, while the media still has Spider-Man framed. Working at the Bugle later, Peter sees a personal ad that's gone out while he's logging the personal ads.
Not only does he see it, he's the one who gets it too.
Yeah, it's sent in, just paid for in cash, this mysterious note that isn't even signed, but he knows that it's from the Black Cat.
Yeah, to meet, she was like, we met, I want to talk to you more, let's meet at the roof.
Yeah, the same roof where they met, which is insane. That's a crazy plan.
No, it's not. We talked about that. It is not insane. It's normal.
Well, first of all, it's pretty dated because she put a personal ad out in the hopes of Spider-Man finding it, which I don't think he would have even seen if he didn't already work at that same newspaper and was logging those personal ads.
We've seen him read the newspaper before. Like last issue when he was talking to Kingpin.
I think that was just to mock him with the headlines.
Uh-huh. But also, like, people go on Reddit and put ads or like, I met this person at this bar at this day. If you are this person, DM me.
It's crazy because then she's just like, you intrigue me. Meet me at the same roof we met. I'm like, you met one time.
We talked about this. There's a flight attendant who married a guy she served once at a plane, and then she stalked him and found him on Instagram, DM'd him. Now they're together and married and are running a cafe in Queens.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but like it happens,
No, I mean, that's true. Thing. All right, you're convincing me.
Thank you. So Black Cat and Peter Parker get married, and they're going to open a cafe in Queens, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I see that happening. Hey, that'll be better than what we currently have in the Spider-Man comics, I'll be honest.
They'll be called the Spider Cat. That'll be the name of the...
I would love that.
Yeah. There is in Noir, Black Cat does own a restaurant, so why not? It's called the Black Cat.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's like a bar / restaurant, really.
Bar, like restaurant / club, yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, like, you go to the club, and they sell chicken, and they have, like, along with... I go to the bar, there's a grill.
What was that way you just said the club?
People say it the club. It's not club.
The club.
The club. You don't go to the club. You go to the club. What?
I don't like that.
That's what you do. Okay, for the club, it's like it's like a golf club, but for the club, it's like the club.
I'm so happy to have gotten that distinction, and I hope all of our listeners are too.
Yeah, no. You've been to the club before, right?
I don't say it like that.
What do you say? I just say it.
I go to the club.
No. If you go to the club, you're like golfing or like eating breakfast.
I would never go golfing.
Really? You never golfed?
Nope. It's the dullest, whitest thing you could do.
Whoa. Tiger Woods is like the opposite of white.
He's also not a great person, but
Okay, yeah, but that's new.
it's not that new.
That I thought you were talking about his racist stuff, or you're talking about his cheating.
Cheating.
Okay,
I didn't
okay,
even
that's
know
all.
about the racist stuff, but
It's like
that's
it just
probably
came
even
out.
worse. Oh my gosh. Confirmed. We are not that we didn't already know, but getting back to the comic, maybe the plan isn't that crazy for Black Cat, but then we get to Mr. Moore meeting this shadowy figure in this bar that he's agreed to meet, and he's shocked. It's this beautiful woman who is all business and is like not there to make idle chit chat. And it's revealed it is Elektra who is
Yes.
back.
And she goes, I didn't expect you to be this hot girl. And he goes, like, what's your name? She goes, Elektra. He goes, is it Greek? And I'm like, hey man, she's dangerous. I don't think it's a smart idea to hit on someone.
Don't flirt with her. She'll kill you.
Yeah, unless you're Daredevil, in which case she'll still probably try to kill you, I guess.
Yeah, she will. Either way.
Yeah,
You have a better chance romantically, but she will try to kill you.
yeah.
But she's wearing that black leather outfit from the first Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra miniseries. The
Yeah.
one that Josh doesn't even know how she got it or where she got it.
Yeah, like it just happened. Like, there's no lead up to it. There's always a lead up to the costume now. Not for her. It just happens.
Yeah, why would we question it?
Yeah, at this point, why not?
Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
Later, also, we see Peter at home and he can't sleep and he tries to call MJ, but her dad picks up, so of course he immediately hangs up.
But it's funny because he calls the dad and that goes, who is this? And he hangs immediately. And I'm like, oh, this is before caller ID was a common thing.
Yep, that's right.
This is the
So,
dark ages when you have to memorize all your contact info.
yeah, and you can only hit *67 or *69 or whatever to get someone's caller ID.
Yeah.
You had to work for it.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't know how people did things back then. I remember the few times I had to call, I had like a list of a paper with all the phone numbers on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Gotta have your Rolodex.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I always think about, like, look, maybe, I'm not going to say times are bad or good, but, like, it just seemed more uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's easier when you just have everyone literally in your contacts. Speed
Yeah.
dial doesn't even make a difference anymore.
Yeah.
Spider-Man / Peter, all he can think about is Black Cat. And he's like, all right, maybe I'll meet her. And he's like in such denial. He's like, well, maybe I'll just go and talk to her. Tell her that stealing's wrong. And then he's like, it's so crazy. It could be a joke. And he's like, maybe it's a trap. That's it. I'm going to go and tell her that this is a dumb trap and I'm not falling for it.
Yeah. And also, like, this is him also reacting because he doesn't have access to MJ. He's also a little upset at MJ.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So this is him kind of trying, I think subconsciously, to fill that void. He's like, things aren't going so well with MJ. I can't get in touch with her. And now I've met this sexy new person who I find super attractive and want to spend time with now. It is just very horny teenage boy of him. But yeah, he shows up to the roof and Black Cat literally has a wine and cheese plate set up on this picnic blanket.
Because she wants to know more about him.
She's like, oh, I don't meet a lot of guys, so I just want to sit down and talk. And I'm like, this is a date for you? You're just going to date this random masked stranger who you have no idea who's under that mask or who this person is?
A lot of people get married from Instagram DMs, and I'm like, why not? This is not the craziest thing. She could take care of it. As Peter will say, like, she already beat the crap out of him once, so.
Yeah, I feel like this was how they did it before social media.
Exactly.
And a lot of the internet was really just putting out personal ads in the paper for people and then just meeting randos and
it's a
seeing
bold
where
move.
it goes.
It's a bold move, but it'll work. And look, she's not a homewrecker. She goes like, "Are you married?" And he goes, "No."
Yeah.
And she goes like, "Do you like girls?" And he goes like, "No, I mean, yeah." So like, it's just okay. Like, she obviously doesn't ask if the age, but she's not gonna do that. It's like because you just assume
she should. I know a lot. It would make sense for him to be a full-grown adult, being a superhero and doing all the shit he does. But she should probably, given this situation, it's very unfortunate that she did not age check this guy. Because if only she knew he was 16, she set out wine and cheese for him, and so he sits down to drink with her, and he's 16.
She thinks he's a mysterious man.
maybe you should know more about this mysterious man before you invite him on a rooftop for
Well,
wine and cheese.
haven't
Like,
you
you got issues.
haven't you ever seen Wise Eyed Shut? Some of the excitement of meeting something is because you don't know who they are and they're wearing a mask for the first time, and you assume if they're in that situation, they're over 20.
That's a false assumption. Clearly, as we can see here.
Okay, but this is the chance of it being underage. And also, if she asks if she's underage, he'll say no because he's trying to say I'm not a kid, I'm a man in a few issues already.
Well, that's just both of their faults. First of all, for her for trusting his word on that, and him for lying and leading on this older woman who doesn't know that she's dealing with a minor.
But she's playing it.
But
She's not a homewrecker. She asks if he's married, and she goes like,
yeah,
"Ethical."
she's like, listen, you're single, you're not gay, you're not disfigured under that mask.
Oh,
Good enough for me.
that's mean. She's asked if she's disfigured under the mask. Because people. This is the second time in this arc he gets asked, "Are you horribly disfigured?"
And I'm like, no.
I think he says like, "Not horribly" is what he says or something.
Yeah.
Because
That's
us
a funny
ugly
one.
Americans deserve representation, and I'm glad Peter represents that for us.
Me too. The date, as I would call it, is cut short because then Elektra throws her sai and immediately starts like attacking them, and that ends issue 51. Is just Elektra going at it against Spider-Man and Black Cat.
I know she went from an Avenger, not like capital A Avenger, but Avenger, to a common criminal.
To just another assassin / mercenary.
Yeah.
And the next issue opens on Kingpin in this very somber scene, sitting in his bedroom, just like sitting up in bed, looking very depressed. And his lawyer comes into the room and says Elektra is on it. She's going to go after Black Cat and Spider-Man. And Kingpin's like, I don't even know who that is. Like, who's that? Which is funny because the issues we read, they did meet. So at first I was like, huh? Like, that's confusing. And I looked it up. Ultimate Elektra, the miniseries where she meets Kingpin, and he's like, "Oh, if you ever need to work for someone, just give me a call." Yeah, I think that wasn't published until later that year. This was early 2004, and that miniseries was mid to late 2004.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the publication doesn't line up. So like, Ultimate Elektra was written after the fact, and they didn't consider the fact that he had never met Elektra up until this point. So it's a bit of a continuity confusion, but considering the mess of it, I'll let it slide. But back on the roof, we see Spider-Man and Black Cat fighting Elektra, and eventually Spider-Man is just there to watch because the two of them are just like going at it, and he has no idea whose side he should be on because he's just met Black Cat, but he's also just met Elektra.
He has a horn spider.
Yeah, it's this pervy scene where he's watching them fight, and he's like, "Oh,
a cat fight."
That's such a sexist and dated term, and some of the illustrations can be a bit gratuitous with them pulling hair and leather ripping and some of the butt shots, and it's not great. There's a lot of objectification going on here. I mean, from Peter's end story-wise, I'm like, all right, he's a horny teenage boy.
He's a horn spider.
A horned spider, yeah.
Exactly.
But just from a writing standpoint and storytelling, this is gratuitous.
Black Cat throughout the fight goes, "I'm not my father." Peter goes like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah, it's an interesting tidbit that she leaves, just a trail of breadcrumbs that he's going to follow later.
Because he's like a detective.
He is like a detective, as he'll note later.
Like an adult job.
Yeah, that's right. He's a real man. But Spider-Man finally decides to intervene. He webs Black Cat, ties her down to the roof, and tries to stop the fight and talk to Elektra, which is a horrible idea, because Elektra just immediately goes to kill him. And he's just trying so hard to talk her down, but all she wants to do is fight, and so she really just overwhelms him to the point of getting him off balance enough that she knocks him off the roof. The motion in these sequences is beautiful when he's falling from the roof and saving himself. Mark Bagley does a great job.
Kind of reminds me of Indiana Jones, the second movie, where they're just falling from the roof and they're just trying to use as many things to block before they, smash.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. And then he's like, "I'm an idiot. I get spider powers." And I'm like, "Oh, and I don't know. This guy's a little too weird. Yeah, I have a girlfriend."
Yeah, there's just a lot of classic Spider-Man internal monologue going on in this sequence where the whole right column of the page is just filled with all these stray thoughts that we're catching from Peter. Him going like, how could I have fallen for this? I've got a girlfriend. Black Cat is dumb for announcing her location. He's dumb for falling for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he arrives on the roof, of course, they're gone.
Yeah.
And he's like, He just plops on his back because he's exhausted on the roof. And he thinks about that thing Black Cat said of like, I'm not my father. And he's like, who's your father? Batman? Which is very funny.
Because they're both wearing dark uniforms, but also one thing I find interesting is that it's implied that Black Cat's sneaky enough to sneak off from Elektra, but also it's implying Elektra's not good enough to track her down, which is interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, Black Cat's really got game. She's really skilled.
Yeah. She also took off her goggles when they were eating and drinking wine, even though Peter's underage.
That's right, yeah.
This Black Cat has like these massive goggles, and it's the first time we see her take him off, and Peter's just shocked at her how she looks when she takes it off.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Like, it's pretty different than the Domino mask I think she's got in the main comics. More modern, I guess you'd say.
More modern. It's a sleeker, updated thing. Because when you're jumping and stuff, goggles really help you keep stuff out, keep the bugs out, as they say.
Mm-hmm. It's helpful. But yeah, then security guard walks out on the roof and Peter's like, shh, I'm thinking, which is hilarious. And the issue ends with May getting a call in the middle of the night from MJ's mom saying that MJ ran away. Big cliffhanger for the final issue in this arc. It's like, oh my gosh, where did she go?
Yeah. The next issue opens with Aunt May running around. She goes like, Gwen, we gotta find them. I think Peter and MJ ran off together.
And Gwen's like, what? What is happening?
I feel Gwen in her head's going like, man, for a nerd, Peter Parker has some balls.
I think this whole arc, Gwen has just been like, what is going on? She's just been sitting around for this drama, just like, I'm just living my life.
Yeah. She's like the third wheel on a date.
Yeah.
Except not a date. It's like such a family drama that she doesn't understand.
She's just like, I'm just happy to be here, you know?
Yeah.
Aunt May is terrified that Peter and MJ have ran away, but she goes into the kitchen and finds Peter just drinking milk straight out of the carton, like a slob.
Like a teenage boy.
Yeah.
He needs that energy.
And he's like, what? I was just getting a break, getting a drink while I was doing my midterm. She's like, it's 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Then May fills Peter in on the situation, and he is like bolts over to MJ's house. And what's really funny is Gwen makes... I love those little comments with people who don't know that he's Spider-Man. When they make these comments, like Gwen's like, oh, wow, guy can move. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. Just noticing those little things about, this guy's really fast.
Yeah. He goes to MJ's house, knocks on the door, and like, it's the dad. He goes like, I know you had something to do with it. Where is my daughter?
Yeah, literally. And Peter just is not having any of it. Just grabs the guy by the wrist and is like, this is your fault. And it's this very intense confrontation on their porch. It's a cool moment of Peter, his anger almost getting the better of him. But luckily MJ's mom is there and she's like, Peter, can you help us find her? And so it's another visually cool sequence you see of like several panels in a row of Peter just turning his head around MJ's room, thinking about, I never should have told her I'm Spider-Man. I don't know where she could be. Nick Fury was right, and this and that. He's also thinking too, man, I'm being punished for going to meet up with the Black Cat. And I'm like, yeah, I'd be thinking the same thing. But he realizes that MJ is at the warehouse where they've met in the past during emergencies. And it's a pretty heartbreaking scene because she's like curled up in like a winter coat with like her diary out. He's wakes her up and she's like, yeah, I wanted to go to your place, but you were out superheroing.
And saving the world is what she says.
Yeah.
But it's when he's swinging into the warehouse, she looks like how a lot of homeless people look in, or like the hood. There's the hood in the corner near a fire or a light of some kind.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah.
And, it shows like the lengths she will go to leave her home and like how hostile and toxic the whole atmosphere is around her.
But he asks like if you ran away, and she goes, no, I don't know. Meaning like this could have just been like a one night stunt for all she knew. She hasn't really made her decision yet.
Yeah, she didn't really know. It was just like, I have to get out of here now. I no real plans, but just like, I need to leave this environment. And this is very true, I would say, to mainline comic like MJ's like backstory with having like an abusive father and just coming from this like really broken home generally. I
Yeah.
mean, this is like 616 MJ before she moved to like live with her Aunt Anna, instead of living with her parents. So I like how they dig into this more.
What I find interesting is that she goes like, he always makes a big deal about me and what I'm doing, my safety, but he's cheating on my mom all the time.
Yeah, it's this whole long speech about her dad being a miserable person and trying to spread misery to her and her mom. And meanwhile, he gets away with cheating on my mom.
Yeah.
And she said it was easier to live with before I knew I could be happy, which is like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Like, that's a
And
sweet moment.
and they're like, should we get married? And they're like, not yet.
Yeah, Peter's like, not yet. We got to get you home first, but it's going to
Yeah.
be okay. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a sweet moment of just comfort where he can finally, I feel like, be there for her in a way when she's been there for him. And a lot of the times when he's been like pretty low in his life, especially since being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Later, Peter's catching up on sleep at the Daily Bugle
Sleeping
when
on your job, man, after giving your second chance.
SMH. Come on, Parker, get it together.
Get it together, Parker. Well, what's the
What
line
am
in
I
the
paying
movie?
you for?
What's the line in the movie? It's like, you're smart, but you're too lazy. You gotta work harder. You gotta grind harder, Parker.
You mean when Doc Ock says brilliant but lazy?
Yes. It's brilliant
It's
but
a
lazy.
totally different character, different voice.
Well, he had some weird faux British accent in that movie. Like, Parker.
Well, because the actor is British, but he's not doing such a great job of putting on an American accent.
Yeah, I don't know why, because in Frida he could do a Mexican accent, so that's not that different.
It's pretty different.
Okay, but like the big thing is that the sounds that an American makes that the British person like has to change is the same. You got to do it anyway for a Mexican accent. So come on, I feel like you could do it. Just change a few syllables around.
You know, we'll call up Alfred Molina one day, and you can give him a piece of your mind,
Exactly. I go like, yeah,
just like that.
exactly.
Then, when Peter wakes up, he thinks about that line that Black Cat said about her father, realizes she's being hunted by the Kingpin. So he looks into it, he does his research, and goes very easily on the Daily Bugle's database and just finds a pretty handy list of known cat burglars, which is like, it's a little too convenient, but okay.
I mean, Daily Bugle, he has access to a database in a time when even now people don't have access to that easily. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's very convenient. That's a very organized database that the Daily Bugle has, that they just have a list of known cat burglars.
I don't even think at this time the New York Times has gotten their database like on point yet.
Well, either way, this database is Easter Egg City, because if you know them as a Marvel fan, you'd know these Marvel characters. Like, it's got the Beatles' real name, it's got Bullseye's name, Carnage, Chameleon, the Prowler, you name it. In this database, Peter finds the name of Jack Hardy, who was a cat burglar who was connected to Fisk in a series of robberies, and he was sentenced to prison. And what's really interesting is he's going over this article that Ben Urich wrote years ago. The guy was represented by none other than Franklin Foggy Nelson of Daredevil fame. So I thought that was a fun little Easter egg there too.
It also doesn't fully make sense because we've met Foggy and he should be around Matt's age.
Yeah, I mean, the timeline, now that I think about it, doesn't add up super well, but it's a fun reference, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I think, maybe it
Is
was like
this?
really early in his career.
Well, no wonder he lost. He got like a lawyer like straight out of law school.
Yeah.
But like this also could be
Fresh out of law school.
written before Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra, right? Wasn't this?
Yeah, well, it was definitely before Ultimate Elektra, but I don't know. I think Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra was before this, like the original
Oh,
miniseries.
so Foggy was already in Ultimate Marvel. Then.
Yeah, so it's
Uh,
just a fun Easter egg, I guess.
yeah. So Peter Parker figures out it's Felicia Hardy.
He literally then Googles her name afterwards and gets her address. It's crazy.
You cannot even do that now with LinkedIn, and this is before
No.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can't do that now. You would no way would you be able to do that then.
I think
But
though. you could now with LinkedIn know where they work, but that's kind of
Yeah.
really the extent.
But he's got her full name and mailing address, and learns that she is an accountant for Wilson Fisk, which is like she's playing it very close to the vest, being an accountant for Fisk and also robbing him simultaneously.
But this would explain her attitude. This is why she hates Fisk. This also explains her confidence attitude because she's like a professional accountant. She's a finance bro.
Yeah.
Explains her her taste in wine and cheese and all that.
Yeah, she's got refined tastes.
She's got refined taste. She's a finance bro. She's confident. She works with a bunch of guys and she takes what she wants. When she
Yeah,
sees
it
a guy she
explains why
likes.
she's such a dominant personality.
Exactly, because she's a finance bro.
All those finance bros are dominant personalities.
That's why people become finance bros, because they have the type A dominant personality.
Well, either way, she's in trouble by an even more dominant personality, the Kingpin, or
Yeah.
Mr. Fisk as he likes to be called, because
Yes.
as Peter realizes that he figured out so easily who Felicia was, then he knows Fisk is going to figure this out because she literally works for him.
Yeah.
And it literally cuts to the next scene of Fisk with his hand around her entire body, slammed up against a wall, and Elektra standing there. And he's like, "Where's the tablet?" And he goes on and on about how her father was a screw up, and
Yeah.
he drank a lot, and he
After he
died
got
in
caught.
prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, "How dare you, an accountant, steal from me?"
Yeah. He's got her right where he wants her. She's looking in bad shape. And it's only when Spider-Man arrives and makes a well-timed KFC joke.
I've never seen you this upset since the Colonel refused to give you the secret recipe.
Which, again, I'm not a huge fan of like how often he like body shames the Kingpin in these comics. But damn, that one was funny. I'm sorry, that got me.
That was pretty good.
I
But
mean, that's good.
I don't know. But also, like, Peter Spider-Man does make a lot of like personal jokes about your physical appearance a lot.
Yeah, but it's pretty low blow, you know? I feel like he can do better than that.
What would you rather say? Like, oh, you look like an egg or a pumpkin
Yeah,
because it's bald?
I don't know, man. I'm not the writers, but
Yeah.
I still thought this was funny. Yeah, this gives Felicia the chance to free herself and lay the smackdown on Fisk. She gets a lot of good blows in, and Spider-Man manages to web up Elektra and take care of her, and then he shoots a web at Kingpin's face, or Mr. Fisk's face, and he chases Felicia up to the roof where he's trying to like talk her down and be like, "Hey, like whatever you have planned, don't do it." But she's like, "Oh, Fisk left my father to rot in jail. He betrayed him. I'm going to take everything away from him." By the time Fisk and Elektra make it to the roof next to them, then Felicia in front of them just tosses the fragment of this tablet into the river.
I also think it shows how skilled Felicia is. I know Spider-Man wasn't as strong; he was kind of caught off guard, but like she did just kick him. The first issue we met her, she did fend off and like kind of kick him and like down. But here, when Spider-Man comes in, she kind of, I know he's distracted too, but she kind of single-handedly just kicks Kingpin off of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like it shows a lot of physical strength. Because like Spider-Man, who has super strength, has difficulty just fighting Kingpin at the stage. Like I think he actually lost the one time he actually had to go fisticuffs with Kingpin in a straight up fight.
Yeah, that's right. So she's pretty skilled and pretty strong as she can be for a normal human being. But unfortunately, she's not fast enough to avoid Elektra tossing her sai as it like impales Felicia and she falls off the roof.
Not just impales her, like it shows her jacket. She's wearing like an accountant jacket, a finance bro vest, as some call them
Yep.
now.
Yeah,
And
some of them call them that.
yeah, and it shows and it goes in. It shows the thing, the back of the dress stick out like a tent, meaning like it was a real staff.
Yeah.
She was impaled and she went flying. That's called death.
Yeah, that is what that is. You're right.
Like,
Josh he's summed up death very well.
yes.
Murder, one might say.
As Pete Davidson says, it's called sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah, that was very much what it. Even though Spider-Man jumped off the roof to find Felicia, but she vanished.
Yeah,
Like
no
there was
body.
no body even. which is crazy.
Oh.
And then he went back to the roof, and Fisk and Elektra are both gone. And the story ends on Fisk sitting at the bedside of his dying wife, Vanessa.
Yeah, he's a wife guy.
Yeah, as we all know from either the comics or the shows, where he's constantly like, Vanessa! Vanessa! It's...
You took away my family, so I'm gonna take away your family.
You tried to hurt Vanessa! And so Vanessa is dying in this version, and it turns out this tablet, he wanted to assemble the fragments because apparently it was a spiritual healing artifact that he didn't even believe in, but he knew Vanessa, his wife, did. So this was like his last resort to take a crack at healing her from this terminal mysterious illness she has that the doctors can't figure out.
Yeah, it's also interesting because we don't know if it's like actually has powers, but this is the first time we've seen, I think, in the regular Ultimate Spider-Man issues, supernatural elements.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else has been like side stuff where the continuity is always a bit iffy. This is the first time we're getting supernatural elements, I feel like.
Yeah. This is a real mystical artifact that we don't see assembled yet. Maybe we'll see it later. I don't remember exactly, but
Yeah.
this is something that comes from the 60s comics, which was like the Lifeline Tablet. This whole thing that it was this big saga at the end of the 60s with Spider-Man where a lot of mob bosses like Silvermane wanted to get their hands on this tablet because it was rumored it would give you like eternal youth, and it was so rejuvenating, and it had all these mystical properties to it. It's probably one of the most mystical. Well, I think before the whole spider totem thing in Spider-Man, this was the most supernatural, mystical aspect of the character's lore that you had. So this is really what it is, and it's an interesting way to bring it back into the new version of the comics, because now you use it to give the Kingpin a more sympathetic motive and to bring that into this version of the comics, and also introduce Black Cat and bring Elektra into the mix, and it's this very fun gangland street level event that you have in this storyline.
This arc is really interesting because like you get Jonah Jameson in the Ultimate Comics is not a very sympathetic or likable character until this moment when you see like, oh, he has this good side to it. And same with Kingpin, there's a line where Spider-Man's like pretending to have lunch with him where he goes, I don't understand you. Well, this is like understanding Kingpin a bit. It's a contrast to MJ's dad, who's like this horrible person who cheats and abuses his family. And Kingpin's this horrible person who cheats and abuses New York.
Yeah.
But he loves his wife as a wife.
He loves his wife, though. Like, he's a monster to the rest of the world, but he loves his wife, damn it.
He kills people with his bare hands.
He crushes skulls. You know, he like shoves people into walls. He like throws them off of rooftops. He hires assassins.
But he doesn't cheat on his wife, and he never shove his wife's body to a wall.
That's right. He does everything he can for his wife.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a somber, bittersweet note to end on, but it also adds a little layer of humanity to the Kingpin, who we just saw as this absolute monster up until that point.
I say he is a monster. He just has a redeeming quality.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. But at least he had no redeeming qualities until this last moment.
Yeah. I mean, it seems some of the guys who like to work for him seem like they get paid enough. Like, he goes like, the criminal made apparently $1 million or $3 million.
I'm just saying, I hope they have good life insurance, because it's likely that he'll be the one to kill them.
Well, knowing it's a Kingpin and knowing what mobsters do, he probably has life insurance policies out on them.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. You know, he's got it. He's the Kingpin, baby.
Yeah,
he's got it prepared.
Yeah.
But another great batch of issues. Any last thoughts as we wrap up here, Josh?
No, I thought this was fun. It's actually very fun. For a couple of the issues were a bit more serious tone. I think a lot of the stuff with MJ is often getting very serious, but overall, it's pretty lighthearted. It's pretty decent fun, as they say.
Yeah, as they say. A lot of good street level fun. Great introduction for the Black Cat. Great return of the Kingpin. Enforcers. Great personal drama at home with MJ. Great characterization of MJ. Jonah Jameson. Robbie, Ben Urich. So many. Aunt May. Gwen. Like, all around.
Yeah.
Still continues to be a solidly consistent comic. So, excited to see where we go next with this.
Yeah.
But next time we are going to delve into it's another weird one, folks. We're going to delve into Ultimate Adventures number 1 through 6, which apparently is another comic that really doesn't really have any connection to the rest of the Ultimate Universe, is pretty much non-canon, is never referenced again, and is seen as horrible.
Is this the one that's just like an OC? They just create an original character.
Oh yeah, there's a couple OCs. Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be interesting. I'm like, I might have to take an edible before reading / discussing those ones, but we'll see.
yeah.
And then after that, we'll get back to the good stuff, I promise. But yeah, meantime, you can email us. Josh, what's our email?
ultimatecomicspodcast@gmail.com. Remember, that's a comics with a plural S, so ultimatecomicspodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. Write into us. Just tell us what you think of the comics, of our coverage of these comics, what you'd like to hear from us, just about anything, really. And if
Yeah.
that's too old fashioned for you, we have an Instagram. So follow us at Ultimate Comics Podcast. Like all
We
our images, comment on them,
we
send us messages.
we love hearing from our fans.
Yeah, please. We love hearing from you guys, and we love how excited you guys get.
Yeah.
Vote in our polls that we have on our stories. Just do anything you can to show your support, show some love, and we'll
Yep.
do that right back at you. But until next time, take care and make mine Ultimate Marvel. Bye bye.